Well, hello there, guys and girls, and welcome! Merry Christmas, everybody! It's time for another tutorial! I hope you're all doing bloody well. I have a cold, everybody, so if I sound weird or I just start coughing and dying in the background, do bear with. But I really wanted just to smash out a kind of, well, Christmas Day when you're actually watching this tutorial, just to kind of firstly let you know they're still happening. I have not died. And also because it's festive, so why the deuce not? As ever, guys and girls, grab yourself some plain sheets of paper. Printer paper's fine at home, I don't care. But do get yourself a good few sheets of it so that you have a softer surface to write on. Here is a super cheap disposable mechanical pencil. It's a Papermate and, of course, a rubber. We all make mistakes. They're called children, but you have to grow them up and get them educated before they can leave. So I thought that we'd just do some Christmas babes. Basically, some standard kind of catch-up run-through of drawing basic anime characters from the basic shapes, but giving them that festive treat as well. If I was smart, I would have done it maybe 2 weeks ago, and you could have all had a go at drawing as we led up to Christmas. But like I say, I've been poorly. There's loads of other challenges. So follow along at home. First things first, everybody. That same old game plan. I want you to start by drawing a character with the head. I'm going to get a kind of head-shaped circle going onto the page just by building up with smaller lines. And my construction lines that I'm using here are way darker than I would do normally, just so that hopefully it shows up nice and clear for you guys at home. Let's make sure that everything is in L focus. And I'm going to get a center line to come down from the front. We're going to draw like some kind of hot anime character, and she's going to be all Santa dressed up. And then we'll do maybe like a slightly younger version of a character with a completely different vibe as well, just so you can kind of get a feel for things. And also, just recap. So we've got the circle that becomes the main part of our character's head. We've got some lines that drop off on the outside edges of the circles and smooth down to become the point of the chin. All things we've covered before, but it never hurts to have a bit of a catch-up. If I create a halfway line that's halfway down the entire height of this head now, I know that I'm going to pop the eyes of my character somewhere just below that brow line, somewhere around about here. Maybe she's going to have big old eyes, something like so, but we'll worry about this part especially as we get into more of a time-lapse section. Now, dropping off from the character, I'm going to have a spine line, so to speak, a line that drops off through the neck, becomes through the body of the character. I'm going to give it a bit of a curve. And the next line that I usually like to get in is a shoulder line. So that is just a cross line. It comes about here. It drops below the head, and it just helps me understand the balance of the shoulders of this character. And then conversely, somewhere down here, a hip line, which is going to be wider. And because this shoulder line drops down slightly on the left, raises ever so slightly on the right, the hip line is doing the opposite thing. Goes up to the left as if we're creating a point somewhere, and down to the right, just to create an amount of balance on this character. So go ahead and get the chest shape in. That is, of course, a very gentle curve over the top, where we kind of use this to understand where the shoulders and the muscles surrounding the neck might come into play. And then, basically like a big egg, just dropping down, a curve becomes this rib cage shape for us, like so, just off of here. And then imagine a much wider, flatter curve is going to tell us how the hips are built up as well. So I'm going to maybe mark right from here, right out to around about here. And again, just a very shallow elliptical curve, rounded up, something like this. And then much like how this is even shallower, we're just going to dip straight in and create the connection around the thighs as well, something like this. Now that we've got those basic shapes in, we start to connect up some of the deals. So let's get a neckline that drops around about here. And what I just want to do is I want to just run through these basic shapes really quickly, just to remind us exactly how it's all put together. Let's get some circles on the side, and then we'll take a moment to actually dress them up, so to speak, which are going to be the shoulders. Not overly large, but right on the edge of where we've got our shoulder lines. And then we've got the rest of the body. So I imagine a center line that goes down the front, something like so, goes over the tummy area and right down to here. And we just get to join it up from the outside. So the hips come up around here, sure. And then it all connects to the middle of the body about here. And then on this side, slightly towards the back, it's going to drop down and around, but then pop down and connect to the hip line around here as well. And then we can just drop some lines off, one from the outside there, one from the outside around about here. And that just tells us that this character's got legs they're standing on. So I'm just going to make that thickened out by one leg here. Kind of comes and meets up around about here. That's the front part of the thigh, but I'm going to map it back as well, like so. And then on this side as well, probably a leg coming up here, like this. And I'm just going to follow this natural curve all the way around, down, and back. Is all of that still on screen? It is just about. So if any of you are obviously watching, Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. I don't care if you celebrate it or not. Just have a nice break maybe from work. And if you are working, well, that sucks. But, celebrations nonetheless to you as well. Everyone's welcome. And it also means that you've survived the Christmas testing, which, as you all know, it's that festive time of year if you're a Christian or a Catholic, where Santa Claus comes down your chimney at night and he gives you a present if you've been good, and he smothers you to death in your sleep if you've been bad. So I'm glad we've only got the good people left. It's, of course, a pleasure having everyone. Now, in this instance, we're going to go maybe a tiny bit sassy. So let's have one arm that's kind of pulling on the drawstring to a bag of presents. You've always got to have that, haven't you? And then this arm will be a bit more traditional, hand on hip or something similar. And once I get those little arm lengths in, actually, this arm might stop about here and then come in around about there. Probably a bit better. Let's get that eraser out. See, we do use it. Always a pleasure. And let's just map some hands onto the end. So just over here, I'm going to have this kind of hand shape we've got. And of course, we've done a how to draw hands tutorial. Am I sounding out of breath yet? I feel terrible. So let's just get that around about here. And then, of course, there'll be some sort of finger shapes there. We'll come back to that later. And get those circles in to help us understand where the elbow is. Down here. Down here. This hand's actually pulling right back because it's going to be tugging onto the drawstring of a bag. And yeah, if you want to kind of see how to draw hands in other tutorials or how to draw all sorts of bits of female anime anatomy, then get into the tutorials playlist. We've covered quite a lot so far. Not quite everything yet. We've got a little bit more on hair and muscular females and a few other bits. But then otherwise, we're pretty much set to actually jump into the males tutorials for 2017. A year that's going to be so much better than this one, I'm sure. So basically, I'd got those circles in, mapped it out. Maybe this arm can go out a little bit further back, rushing ever so slightly, in an attempt to make this tutorial not to be the longest thing in the world as usual. And then obviously to map on the boobs as well. This is an older, chestier character, so we're going for that kind of teardrop shape. If you imagine the boob itself, sure, might be mostly a circle at the bottom. Get a nice big rounded space there. But then it does teardrop up towards the shoulders like so. So this is like a tear of joy, pure happiness, if anything. It's a very positive thing that's going on here. But that's what you want to remember. They're not circles, they are flesh. They act in certain ways, respond to other materials and pressure. But we've got tutorials specifying boobs as well on the channel. Let's just bring that back in. 'Tis the season to catch a cold and be really, really ill. Doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. Excellent. Let's not make it a sing-song. But there we go. We've got the basic structure, the basic shape in of this character. So before I start to actually make a body out of it and a body shape, this is a bit where I wanted to just highlight Christmasing it up a little bit, jazzing it up for Christmas. Let's check again. That's all on. Now, first things first, this is like a Mrs. Santa type character. So we're going to have that Santa's hat. A very simple way to just get some of this out of the way is to not have the hat too low on the head. We'll still have plenty of hair coming into play. But I'm going to map around the brim of the hat about a quarter of the way up the top of the head, where that would sit on, around about there. And this just works with some very simple points or shapes. We're going to just kind of come out into a saggy point that kind of goes off towards the back, a bit like an elf hat. And it kind of lumps out because it's got a bit of shape and form, but then falls down as well, off towards the back like a nightcap, just like so. So I'm creating one kind of elliptical shape that goes up and over here, and another kind of curve that goes off and down to the back. I'm not doing super straight lines, even though this will be a fold that's shown something like that. And then what we can do is just map a circle onto the end. I'm going to make this fluffy and change the texture. but putting a circle on there just lets us know where it is for the moment. It does the trick. And then we're going to have a nice big brow as well, a big fluffy area where the hood of the hat actually goes onto the head. So once again, I'm just mapping this big bar of space that comes all the way around. But when we get into some final lines, we're actually going to change that texture as well. It's all a bit of a guiding point. Now, when it comes to the big sack full of presents, this is getting pulled over the shoulder, so to speak, by the drawstring here. So firstly, the hand is pulling everything, and it's very tight and it's under pressure. So it's a very straight line here. And then the drawstring area of the sack is going to be right over the shoulder, something like this. Now, the reason I've got an ellipse shape here is because firstly, the end of the sack still kind of flourishes out, something like so. We'll have that shape in there. And then the rest of it is going to just be actually hanging right off the back. And again, you can get nice and vague, really. This big sack of presents can just be like a big burglar's swag bag. It's good that Santa's giving the gifts and not taking them away, because it's very easy to confuse him with a thief if I was a policeman and I had a gun and I had to make the decision on the spot. So let's get that nice and big like so. Big bag of Christmas swag. And then in terms of the Santa outfit, we can keep it slightly risque in that fun anime way. So we could have like a Santa's choker, something like this, just going around the neck, around about here. And that could be sort of holly and mistletoe, something like that. So I'm just going to create a bow shape that later might become the leaves of mistletoe itself. Then we could have, let's have a little think, the kind of Santa's, not quite a cape, not quite a cloak, but basically like a half cape, half cloak that covers over the shoulders and then just stops around about the forearm like so. And then same down the other side and just gives a little bit of warmth to the top of the body. It doesn't really serve much of another real function. And this, of course, like all the clothes, is going to have that big, fluffy Santa's brim. So it might be that the lines are getting quite confused up on here. So again, I'm going to make it nice and dark. And I'm just showing that I'm getting this big, wide brim of material around here and around here. It's going to end up being our big, white, fluffy zone all the way up and around the back like so. In terms of the actual top, let's have something completely unsuitable for winter. We'll go for a fluffy Santa boob tube or something like this. So cut straight across, halfway down the chest. Get a nice big brim to it again, full of all the fluff. And then straight underneath as well the boobs. The underside of the boob tube will be fluffing out, just like so. Maybe a strap or two just to make sure everything stays in place for Christmas. And then a bit more risque, maybe just Santa's knickers, something like that, just down there and just up around. Make sure that it follows the curve of the body though, up around and back before meeting down, obviously in the middle down here. Lovely. And then there's going to be all sorts of more mistletoe, basically any part where you might have a ribbon or a bow on some normal material. It's going to be Christmas-fied. So this will be holly and or mistletoe, I forget which one, as well as also being a big bow with some bits. A bit like a present. Excellent. Just like that. Just getting these bow shapes in, as well as these mistletoe shapes that we map onto later. Lovely, like so. Then we've got just enough of the leg of this character in to get maybe the very top of some Santa-ish thigh-highs or stockings. And you know it, again, it's going to be that big old border of Christmassy fluff up and around. And then let's just have a think. Do we even have some Santa-y gloves? We might as well. Just some glove shapes in. I'm going to map this on when I actually get the fingers in more detail, but they will have a nice big frill around the outside edge, big mittens, just there, back onto here like so. And there we've got most of the basics in. Obviously we haven't worried about the features and exactly how that's all going to play. We'll get to that in a minute. But what I really wanted to do is just focus on, and let's slide this over so it's not fully in the light, focus on a couple main bits. Big Santa's hat, we're going to go up to this circle and we're just going to turn everything into tiny little spikes by just following this around, but pointing out all these fluffy bits just into these spiky shapes like so. We're turning it into this fluffy material. Same with the hat, just as we work round. And they don't even have to be connecting triangles and spikes and dips. You can do a few random lines as well, but just to really break up the edge and just show that this material is actually really fluffy and got loads going on like so. It's got to be nice and warm and winter appropriate for the time of year. Unless, of course, you're celebrating Christmas south of the equator, in which case you guys have summer. And my God, that's just disgusting. I don't understand that. Follow along. So hopefully you see what I'm doing now. I'm just fluffing out that line. We're going to do the same for the edges of the winter kind of cloak, the edges for all the other bits of material as well. Really fluff it out, stick an actual character on it, but that's going to be our Santa-esque one. So I'll drop into a cheeky bit of time lapse for that at the end. But let's go ahead and do another type of character as well. We've got a busty kind of Santa-y one going on around about here. Let's get like a mouth in as well. Hey, something like that. So let's go for slightly more of a gifted type, the younger I'm the present kind of character. Not to objectify women. Women aren't presents. They're a gift to society, obviously, but they're not items. I've heard about this. So we're going to try maybe something a bit more difficult as well. We're going to get some foreshortening in, and it's going to be sort of a kneeling down pose. We're going to come in from near to camera to top. So again, I'm going to start off. Let's hope once more we're in focus. We're on a page. Just get that to focus in. Lovely. Start off with a nice big head circle. Something like so. And just follow along with this one. We're going to get a top-down angle going on. So this particular head, I'm going to have the center line about here. Anime character's face curving in to create chin point around about there. And back up. Get a bit of cheek curve there, up on this side. The shoulders, I'm going to have actually just scooping just below the headline. And the back of this character is actually foreshortened right away from us as a viewer. This will make more sense in just a moment, but it does mean the hip line is pretty much through here as well. Now, if we actually get the building block shapes going on, this is all going to just fall into place a lot better. So I'm firstly going to go ahead and have the chest part, which is kind of hidden behind this head, and it's dropping down and away from us, just like this. So we'll get that elliptical shape in, coming down around on this side. And then the rest of the body is actually shooting off away and from the back of us. So I'm going to get another elliptical shape. This one's going to be the hips. We're almost looking straight down onto it, all the way back there as well. Something like so. Now if we get the shoulder circles onto this character, just one here, as usual, and another one just over here. Nice. Maybe just bring that in a touch. And then the arms of this character are going to be kind of shooting straight down away from us about here and about here. And the legs of this character are going to be tucked in and back. So maybe one leg's going to come down around about here, but come all the way back. And the other, might not even see it, it's going to be around about here from the other part of the hip. So maybe just coming on the outside of his hand, and again, tucking back like so. Now, mapping it out, again, it's just going to make more sense. So if we have an elbow points as we come down around about here, this arm that we can treat like a bit of a tube or a cylinder is just going down and away, and then just kind of mapping out a little bit wider for the flesh of the forearm before becoming the hand, which is going to be flatter on the floor. Let's just map that out into a shape, maybe get thumbs coming off there. And again, those hand tutorials are available on separate tutorials because these fingers and hands are always a challenge. Let's just get this all mapped in like so. And then maybe the little fingers just up and down like that. Then similar story with this arm. Just going to drop down and away. All the weight is on the front of the arms. The inside edge of the forearm we're seeing in this example And again, this hand as such is going to just head off in this direction, which means another bit of thumb out here, and these fingers displayed for our pleasure here, here, together, and then maybe the little finger off there. So if we just follow this curve of the body back, we've got the top of the rib cage, all stops back here, the middle of the body, the hips, all of this zone is around about here. Here's our center line coming down the front. There's our neckline meeting into the body. And then it's going to mean that this whole area back here is probably the first curve of the bum, right around here. Got another curve just coming up about there, just out of the shot behind the back. And then we've got some nice big joints where the knees are. And we're going to build up that curve and bring it in. So this becomes the thigh, the main part of the leg. On this side on the right, it's curving up and in as well. And then on this side, it's all kind of disappearing a bit off behind the rest of the body. So if we imagine a knee there, we've got part of the thigh coming up there, curving into the knee, disappearing back on itself in that direction. We don't even get a shot of the rest of the leg, so to speak, maybe just a bit of a bulge to show the flesh of the calf. And then on this side, we see a little bit more in that this leg's coming back here. We've got a bit of a bulge shape for the calf muscle there. But otherwise, it shoots back, becomes the foot here, which means we see a bit of the heel from the top rear, and then the rest of the foot all the way up and back, like so. Something at least of that nature. You get the idea. So with this character again, let's just go and map out some basics. We've got half the height of the head being the brow line. So that means that the eyes of this character are going to sit somewhere just below it, like here, with some vague pupils. And I only map this out lightly because I'll worry in time-lapse about making the face look a bit more correct. Something like so. And then on this character as well, we can give him a bit of a chest. Nothing too crazy in this example though. Something just here for one boob. And then the other boob. Just map it as something like so. Excellent. And again, creating that teardrop white shape that just means it's all hanging with its own texture, its own weight, and its own material. Okay, so this character, which I'm just going to, oh dear, make sure it's in focus now, is going to be our different variation, so to speak. So in this one, we can leave maybe all the hair out. This character is going to have, who knows, like all sorts of Christmas fringe that will be over here, and then those kind of cutie Christmas bits of hair that map in around the edges, maybe a little something at the back. But they're going to have maybe great big Christmas bow sort of situation. This will be our Christmas themed character. This is the Santa-ish character, and this will be the all other parts of Christmas and presents kind of character. So we'll give this character some thigh highs as well. These are going to be striped Christmas stockings of some sort or another in those cheerful Christmas colours. Obviously, this will be a black and white picture, so we don't need to worry about exactly whether they're reds and greens and so on, but kind of elfin colours, you get the idea. So we'll just map out these stripes so that they match the form and the tubular shape of the legs as they go back. Maybe even a Christmas boot on this character. A nice thick heel will help us understand the shapes that are going on there. Might even have to make that a curve that comes up. We'll come back to that. Same on this side in that we're mapping out the thigh shape or the curves of the thigh through the stockings. And then up on here, just get a bit more of a bow to that situation. Oh, text message. We'll have maybe an elfin ear just shooting off back there, now that we've decided it's a Christmas elf that does elfin type things. And also, I think we're going to bow up the front as well. Why not? So, right across here, there's going to be a great big present-y style bow that's keeping everything held together on the clothes. Down here, down here. That's all bringing it back and in. It's going to be probably a strand or two of ribbony material that goes all the way up and around this character. Maybe down the arm, as well. And then out round the back, we'll just have a few bits where probably we show some Christmassy type underwear, just up round the back here, curving round the hip zone towards the front. And then there'll be maybe a little choker on here. Maybe a bell in this occasion. Christmas kind of ringing treat. Wait, is it 5 gold rings? Are there Christmas bells in a Christmas song? I do forget. We'll have a couple. And then maybe this character can just have a bit more hair just coming off either side. It will just kind of splay out and do its own thing. So when we actually drop into the time lapse, I'm really going to lean into this some more. I'm actually getting poorlier as I make this tutorial, but we're going to map this into this Christmas presenty gifty kind of vibe with lots of spiral Christmas themes. We're going to map out all the Santa clothing onto this character, and basically now that we've got the building blocks in, I'm going to put a character on top of each of these. So let's once again make sure that's all on the camera. Don't worry too much if the drawing lines and guiding lines become a bit confused on this one, because I will erase out some of those gaps. But I'll see you right after the time lapse and we'll work from there. And so there we have it, guys. Hopefully now that I've actually put some characters on top of the framework and the guidelines that we've built up, it actually allows all the kind of slightly confused areas to make more sense. Obviously, the perspective on this character is kind of over one of the shoulders, high looking down. So a lot of the body is contracted away and we just see a few bits of thigh and chest. And with the Santa character, hopefully it kind of gives you guys an idea at home of how you can build up some Christmassy themes. Use your basic building shapes to get the character down, but then loads of warm, fluffy outlined clothing, loads of Santa colours, loads of holly and bits and lace, as well as the thigh highs. And with the Santa's kind of little helper or the elf character as well, loads of bows and ribbons. Obviously this is black and white, so it's kind of just dark and light, but these could be reds and greens and all sorts of gaudy, Christmassy colours building up the characters at home. I of course hope you guys have had a go at home with your own pen and paper. Don't forget, you can always submit your artwork on Facebook, on my Facebook page, where we like to just keep that going. Links in the description below. And do give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe if you liked it and you do want to get subscribed, because there's loads of tutorials in the future. I really wanted to smash out another tutorial before the year is over, guys, just to let you know that that's still happening and I'm still alive, even though I am incredibly ill right now. And don't forget, hopefully I'll still do a DWM on Wednesday, so we can all catch up there, kiss 2016 goodbye, and get set up for a new year of tutorials. Many thanks, you guys, for watching along. I hope you have lovely lives. Don't forget to support me on Patreon, where you get extra rewards. But Merry Christmas or Merry Holidays to a lot of you, whatever you're up to. Peace out.